What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of cycling nutrition. Well, not just cycling nutrition, but nutrition in general. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't play one on the internet. I'm sharing information that I've learned and that I've used, well, basically to improve my performance and to get faster uphill. If you're watching this video, it's kind of a continuation from last week, but it's part of this series, this 2021 hill climbing series of videos, which will document the process from now till the end of October, when we take on the National Hill Climb Championships on Winnett's Pass. So I'm going to use myself as an example during this video. Makes it easier, but I will put a formula down below in the description to help you out with some of these calculations. We've just gone through what I call kind of phase one, where I've gone through a couple of weeks of just cleaning up what I'm eating, making a little bit healthier decisions about the food that I'm consuming, a little bit less kind of snacking on biscuits, which I tend to do. I'm also drinking a lot more. That's water, not alcohol. And I'm trying to eyeball meals, and I've been tracking some of my meals on MyFitnessPal, which is an app that I use. You can get the free version or the paid version. I actually use the paid version, not sponsored. Knowing calorie portions and sizes is a great place to start. I've been weighing myself, not every day, but consistently over the last couple of weeks, and my weight has somewhat settled at around the 60 to 62 kilogram mark. It does fluctuate a fair bit depending on what I've eaten the night before, particularly if I'm not being super strict. But when you notice a plateau, it's time to tighten things up and bring on the reins, and you think, what is my next step? And that kind of brings us into phase two, and this is where you need to get a little bit more serious. Now, important to note, you have to strike the balance between it being healthy and fun and being serious. Like, if it's part of your lifestyle, if you make it part of your lifestyle and you don't make it a chore, what I'm about to show you, the calculations, will give you the benchmark that you can then build off. And I'll show you in the app as well. This thing right here is a food scale. It is, well, it's not a secret weapon, but it is my thing to go to in phase two. Look, I know it's a ball ache when you have to, weigh the food out and you get and you realize just how small portions are and just how high calorific some things are. I know it can be a little bit sad, but what I want you to know is you don't have to do it forever. It is there to help you. But if you can just be consistent and use it for a short period of time, you probably won't have to ever use it again. We'll get to this in a second, but weighing things like peanut butter, I know, sounds trivial, but things that have high calorie contents like peanut butter are obviously high in fat. Good fats, healthy fats, can massively skew your idea of what is a big portion and what's a small portion. So the final piece of the puzzle in phase two, which is the biggest thing that the biggest tool that I use, is macronutrient tracking. You can count calories, calorie tracking, but you can also count macros, macronutrient tracking. I actually enjoy counting macronutrients. I think it's like a little game that I play, so I enjoy doing it. So that is what I'm going to try and break down for you in the last part of this video. How to find the right macronutrient balance for you on any given day. Now, before anybody says anything, I need to say this. I use pound, mainly because I'm weird, but mainly because you can track smaller, micro improvements. So you could go from 62 to 61.9 kilograms, but I quite like seeing that number 135 pounds go to well, basically I like seeing a bigger drop of number, okay? Just this is why I ride with kilometers instead of miles, because in kilometers it's you've gone faster, but you haven't. So I'm just going to run through first of all what some of this means. So first of all, you need to work out your maintenance calories, the calories that you're going to need to stay alive that day, in theory. So we need to work that out. But first of all, we have our macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbohydrate. Now, I always start off by trying to work out my protein, then my fat, and then carbohydrate last. All right, carbohydrate are king. All right, prove me wrong. I've tried lots of different ways. I've tried a macronutrient split where I've done like 33, 33, 33. I've tried moderate fat, not high fat, but I've been like fairly close to it. And I do it on most days. I won't get into the weeds of like red days and green days where you have like, you know, high carb and low carb days. I won't get into that in this video. Now these numbers to calculate are taken from studies, so it's not just a wild shot in the dark. They're also not set in stone either. You can argue that it's not the right starting point, but everybody can be different. But you've got to at least have a starting point. A starting point is better than no starting point. Okay, so let's do the calculation in real time. So my protein is going to be, let's say, 1 gram of protein per pound body weight. So that's going to be 135. Then we're going to look at fat. Now, depending on if you like fat, as in if you enjoy eating like fatty foods, good fat, bad fat, whatever you want to call it, like this is where you're going to like suss it out. So they go the 0.3 to 0.4 range. Now I prefer low fat or lower fat, so I'm going to go for 0.3. Okay, so this is, we're going to call that 41. It's all subject to change. It just gives you a starting point, okay? So we have to figure out whatever's left in terms of our calories from our body weight to work out our carbohydrate. So first of all, our body weight in pounds times, and the calculation is 14 to 16. 14 is less active, 16 is more active. I actually don't do much other than riding my bike, so I'm gonna go for 14. So these are my maintenance calories, right? What I need every day, or thereabout. We need to subtract if you want a deficit. If you want to lose body fat, you need a deficit. Now, what sort of deficit you want depends what you want, really. You can have, 500. I wouldn't go any more than that, if I was honest, daily. But you can also go for like 200 or 250. Remember though that when I think about losing weight, I always think about it long term. And I also think about it in like a week timescale. So if, for example, you were going to shoot for a pretty good 250 calorie deficit every day. It doesn't have to be every day. If you have a rest day on a Monday and you have a rest day on a Friday, you don't necessarily have to be in a deficit on those days. You could actually be in a surplus. You could actually be 100 or 200 calories over on those days. Okay, Alexa's just done the conversion for me. So 1640 is my new calorie target for a standard day with no riding whatsoever for a 250 calorie deficit. Remember obviously that this is for a non-riding day. You're not riding today. Where it gets difficult and tricky obviously, but still somewhat simple, is when you do ride your bike and you train via heart rate or power probably being more accurate in some sense of the term, you can factor in the calories you've burnt during that session on top of this. So you can add, if you've burnt 1,000, you can add 1,000. It's quite crude, but again, it's to give you some sort of idea. Did you know that there's around about 4 calories per gram of protein, 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, but 9 calories per gram of fat? So we use the protein and fat that we've already worked out to work out what's left for our carbohydrate.
35 times 4 is...
Right, let me explain what we've done. So we know that 4 calories per gram of protein. So we've taken 135 grams of protein and we've times it by 4 to give us 540 calories. We know 9 calories per gram of fat, so we've times our 41 to get 369 calories. Now we've added them both up, and the calories from protein and fat are 909. Now from that 909, you have to subtract from your maintenance calories, which is the number of calories you have left to eat that day. Now, again, I'll leave the format down below for you. But what you now have is 731 calories for me. So 731 divided by 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate equals 183. So 183 grams of carbohydrate is what I'm going to be consuming on my rest days. 135 grams of protein and 41 grams of fat. Now, I must say to close this out that this is one of many ways of doing it, of finding your starting point. I would say that you can certainly play around with many of these numbers. You can certainly add, more carbs. You can certainly, especially if you talk about manipulation of carbohydrate and fats and stuff, on your rest days, you might want a higher fat intake, not by much, remember, because it's 9 calories per gram, but you could increase that and you would drop your carbohydrate. You'd be periodizing your carbohydrate then. So that's a tactic that some people like to use. But this is a starting point. So hopefully this gives you a place to begin. So if you are then going out and this was in your rest day, you would go out and you might do a 2,000 calorie ride, and then you'd come back and you'd obviously replenish those. So everything would then increase, obviously, as your exercise intensity or minutes add up. You don't have to have the app to know all of this. You can do it very quickly using those calculations. And this is where you need to use like a little bit of experimentation. Now, I know that I'm going to require a lot of carbohydrate on the bike. I know I'm probably going to be consuming within a range of 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrate an hour. So if you work to, say, 60 grams and you're out for 3 hours, that's 180 grams of carbohydrate. On an average day, I need, 183. Then that's 360 grams of carbohydrate there. You could obviously look at the calorie number and the goal and know that you potentially need more if you're burning more calories during that ride. Because obviously not all of the calories that you're burning are coming from carbohydrate, they're coming from fat as well. I hope you found this insightful. I hope you found it useful in some way. It is part of the journey now, part of what we're doing, so you'll see a lot more of it in the videos. You'll see me, you'll see what I'm eating, you'll see how I'm planning things out. You'll know now, you'll be armed with this information, and you'll know where it's come from. You can always come back to this and use it, and use the formula down below if you want to get the most out of your cycling, and hopefully persuade some of you to eat more food and to really take care of yourselves, and not always be worried about do I need to be 1,000 calorie deficit? No, it's definitely not the case. So I do get messages from people. I try to reply to the message. I try to not address it, because I'm certainly not, I'm not a nutritionist or anything like that. So I'm just trying to give you an informed outlook on this situation. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.